The city woke up early for the royal parade, and the streets were dressed in bright flags and fresh flowers. People came from nearby towns and even distant villages, and they stood in long lines behind shiny barriers. Music from brass bands rolled through the air and mixed with the smell of sweet bread from street carts. Children held paper crowns and small flags, and parents lifted them up so they could see better. The parade road looked like a river of color with uniforms on one side and cheering faces on the other side. In the middle of this loud happiness stood a little girl named Mila. Mila was about 9 years old, and her blue dress was simple and clean but not new. Her shoes were plain and slightly dusty, as if she had walked far to reach the place. Her hair was tied back with a small ribbon, and her face looked calm in a way that did not match the day. Mila did not jump or laugh like the other children, and she did not wave her little flag. She watched the royal guards more than she watched the coming parade. The guards stood at even spaces like tall statues, and their polished boots caught the light. Their uniforms were neat, and their gloves were bright, and their eyes moved slowly across the crowd. One guard stood near the center of the street where the view was clear and wide. His name was Aaron, and he had served the palace for many years. Aaron had seen many celebrations, and he had learned to read small signs that most people never noticed. He could spot a lost child before a parent could, and he could sense trouble before it became loud. On this day, Aaron expected nothing unusual because the route was checked and the schedule was strict. Still he stayed focused because training never allowed a guard to relax. The music became louder, and the crowd leaned forward as the first decorated riders appeared. Mila felt her stomach tighten as the parade drew closer. She took a small step forward and another step after that, and she slipped into a gap near the barrier where adults could not block her view. She was small enough to fit between two taller people, and no one paid attention because everyone was looking down the road. Mila lifted her hand slowly and kept her elbow close to her side. Her fingers moved in a pattern that looked like a child playing with her hands. She pressed 2 fingers together, then touched the inside of her wrist and then lowered her hand. The movement was quick and quiet, and it lasted only a moment. Aaron saw it, and his eyes sharpened, as if someone had turned up a light inside his mind. That signal was not something he expected to see in a crowd, and it was not something a child should know by accident. It was a training sign from old royal safety lessons, and it meant a hidden warning was being passed without words. Aaron looked directly at Mila, and Mila held his gaze without blinking. Mila did not smile, and she did not look away, and that steadiness made Aaron take her seriously. Aaron changed his stance slightly so his body faced her while his eyes still covered the street. He raised his hand a little and used a simple gesture to ask for another sign. Mila nodded once and made a second signal that was even smaller. She tapped her wrist again and then pointed softly toward a section of the crowd near a tall stone fountain. The fountain area was busy because it had a good view and it was close to the royal viewing stand. Aaron did not panic, and he did not shout because fear spreads faster than truth in large crowds. He used a calm signal to the guard beside him, and then to the guard farther down the line. The guards shifted by small steps that looked natural to most people. Aaron pressed a button on his hidden earpiece and spoke in a low, steady voice to the parade control team. He said there was a possible concern near the fountain, and he requested a slow down. The parade control team responded with a brief message, and the front riders were told to reduce speed. The music kept playing, but the rhythm softened as the band adjusted to the new pace. People noticed the change, but they assumed it was part of the show. Mila watched Aaron as if she was counting on him to understand. Aaron walked closer to the barrier without breaking the guard line. He leaned slightly and spoke in a calm tone that only Mila could hear. He asked her where she learned the signal and why she used it today. Mila swallowed and kept her voice quiet and clear. She said an older man once taught her the sign and told her it was for emergencies when words could not be used. She said she had seen something that made her feel that same kind of emergency. Aaron asked her what she saw, and Mila pointed again toward the fountain area. Mila said she saw a man handing a small package to another man, and both men kept looking at the road more than they looked at each other. Mila said the first man kept his face down under a hat, and the second man kept adjusting his jacket as if he was hiding something inside. Mila said she did not know what the package was, but she felt afraid because the men were not acting like happy parade watchers. Aaron listened and watched the fountain area with a sharper focus. He saw two men near the stone edge, and one of them stood too stiff while pretending to be relaxed. Aaron saw the second man hold his arm close to his side, as if he did not want anyone to bump him. Aaron did not decide they were guilty because guesses can be dangerous. Aaron decided only that the situation deserved careful attention. Aaron raised his hand, and the guard line became more alert without becoming aggressive. A quiet group of palace safety officers began moving through the crowd in plain clothes. They did not run and they did not push, and they moved like normal people looking for a better view. Aaron kept Mila in his sight as well because she was the one who had started the warning. Mila stood still and did not try to look important, and she did not try to explain more than she knew. Mila only watched the two men and then watched Aaron again. Aaron noticed how Mila kept her breathing slow and controlled, and he wondered how a child could look so steady in such a loud place. Aaron asked Mila if she came with family, and Mila said she came alone. Aaron felt concerned because a child alone in a huge crowd was also a risk. He signaled another guard to quietly stand near her without blocking the view. That guard stood like a statue but slightly closer to Mila, so she felt safer. The parade slowed more as the royal carriage approached the main section of the route. The decorated horses stepped carefully and the sunlight flashed on the gold trim of the carriage. The crowd cheered louder because they could finally see the royal banner. Mila did not cheer and her eyes stayed focused. Aaron kept his face calm but his mind worked quickly. He watched the fountain men again, and he saw the second man start to move as the carriage came closer. The man took one step back and then another, and he looked around as if searching for a gap to slip through. The first man turned his head and scanned the guard line. Aaron took one deeper breath and made a clean, sharp signal. The parade music continued, but the front marshal lifted a flag and the carriage slowed to a near stop. The crowd began to murmur because this was not normal. Aaron stepped forward and raised his hand higher, and the guard line tightened. The plainclothes safety officers reached the fountain area at the same time. One officer gently placed a hand on the second man's shoulder and spoke to him quietly. The man froze for a second and then tried to turn away. Another officer stepped into his path, and the two officers guided him away from the fountain without causing a scene. The first man tried to blend into the crowd, but a third officer blocked him and spoke in the same calm, firm way. People nearby gasped because they finally realized something serious was happening. Aaron kept his voice steady in his earpiece and asked for the route to stay paused until the check was complete. Mila watched the officers escort the two men toward a side street where more guards waited. Mila did not look proud, and she did not look scared in a loud way. Mila looked relieved in a quiet way, as if she had been holding her breath for a long time. Aaron turned his head slightly and looked at Mila again. He realized that without her small signal he might have missed the warning until it became a bigger problem. Aaron stepped closer and spoke softly and told her she did the right thing by using the signal. Mila nodded once, and her shoulders loosened a little. Aaron asked her name and she said Mila. Aaron repeated her name as if he wanted to remember it well. In the distance the parade leaders waited for the next instruction and the crowd stayed restless but controlled. Mila stood beside the barrier with the guard nearby, and the city noise suddenly felt heavier. Aaron knew the situation was not finished because questions remained and reasons were still unknown. Aaron also knew that Mila had not shared everything yet because her eyes still carried a secret that did not fit a normal parade day. The pause in the parade stretched longer than the crowd expected, and the air felt tighter as whispers moved from person to person. The music softened even more until it felt like a background echo instead of a celebration sound. Aaron stayed in his position with his back straight and his eyes moving carefully between the road and the fountain area. The officers returned with quiet faces, and one of them gave Aaron a short signal that meant the two men were being checked away from the crowd. Mila stayed near the barrier, and the nearby guard kept a respectful distance so she did not feel trapped. Mila watched the royal carriage as it stood still, and she felt the weight of many eyes, even though no one looked directly at her. She had never expected the parade to stop for so long, and she wondered if she had caused trouble for people who only wanted to celebrate. Aaron stepped closer to Mila again and lowered his voice so it stayed private. He told her the officers were making sure everyone was safe and that she had helped them notice something early. Mila nodded, but her hands shook slightly and she pressed them together to steady herself. Aaron noticed the shake and understood that bravery often comes with fear hidden underneath. Aaron asked Mila again how she learned the signal, and this time he asked with more care. Mila looked down at her shoes for a moment and then lifted her eyes back to Aaron. She said her older brother taught her the signal a long time ago. She said her brother once worked near the palace but not as a guard, and he learned many safety signs during his work. Mila said her brother always told her that safety signs were not secrets to keep for pride, but tools to use for protection. Mila said her brother was no longer around to help her, and that was why she remembered his words so clearly. Aaron listened and felt a quiet respect grow inside him. He knew that training signs were shared only with trusted people, and hearing that a child remembered them so carefully said a lot about her past. Aaron asked where her family was, and Mila said she lived with her aunt now, and her aunt worked long hours, so Mila learned to do many things on her own. Aaron felt concern again, but he stayed focused on the moment because duty always came first. The officers near the side street sent another signal that the check was ongoing and that the items found needed careful review. Aaron relayed the update and requested more time before the parade continued. The royal team agreed because safety mattered more than schedule. The crowd grew restless, but guards used calm hand motions to keep people from pushing forward. Mila noticed some people nearby looking confused and worried, and she shrank slightly as if she wanted to disappear. Aaron noticed and reassured her quietly that she had done nothing wrong. Aaron said sometimes helping others means standing out even when it feels uncomfortable. Mila listened and breathed slowly as if she was following instructions she already knew. The sun shifted higher and light bounced off helmets and metal railings. Aaron kept scanning the area, and he noticed the fountain zone was now mostly clear as officers guided people to stand back. A senior safety officer approached Aaron and spoke in a low voice. He said the two men were being questioned and that the package contained items that should not have been near a crowded event. He said the early signal likely prevented panic and confusion. Aaron nodded and felt a heavy sense of relief settle in his chest. He looked at Mila again and realized how close the day had come to changing in a much worse way. The senior officer asked Aaron about the source of the alert, and Aaron gestured gently toward Mila without making her feel exposed. The senior officer looked at Mila with surprise and then with respect. He did not approach her directly and instead told Aaron to keep her comfortable and safe until the situation fully cleared. Aaron agreed and stayed near her as the lead guard. The royal carriage remained paused and the crowd slowly accepted that something serious was happening. Some people grew quiet and others murmured prayers under their breath. Mila watched the faces around her and saw fear and curiosity mixed together. She wondered if her brother would have been proud of her, or worried about her standing there alone. Aaron asked Mila if she wanted water, and he signaled a nearby aide to bring a small bottle. Mila accepted it with both hands and took a careful sip. The simple act helped her steady herself again. Aaron then asked Mila if she noticed anything else earlier before the signal. Mila thought carefully and said she saw the first man arrive very early and stand near the fountain long before the crowd filled in. Mila said the man watched the guard positions more than the parade decorations. Mila said she noticed because her brother once told her that people who study guards instead of celebrations can be a warning sign. Aaron listened closely and filed the detail in his memory. Aaron shared the information with the safety team because small observations often complete a larger picture. The safety team acknowledged and continued their work. The air felt calmer now that officers were in control and the risk seemed contained. Aaron stood tall again and gave a subtle signal that allowed the band leader to prepare to resume when cleared. Mila watched the musicians and saw them waiting patiently with instruments held ready. She realized how many people depended on small decisions made in quiet moments. Aaron told Mila that when everything finished he would help her find her aunt or ensure she got home safely. Mila thanked him softly and felt less alone for the first time that day. The senior safety officer returned and signaled that the immediate risk had passed and that the parade could continue with adjustments. Aaron acknowledged and raised his hand in a controlled motion. The band leader lifted his baton and the music slowly returned to full strength. The royal carriage began to move again, at a careful pace. The crowd cheered again, but the sound carried a different tone now, with relief mixed into the joy. Mila felt her heart beat slower as the carriage rolled past her position. She caught a brief glimpse of the royal banner and the shining trim and felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. Aaron remained at his post and watched the route carefully until the carriage passed fully. When the main section of the parade moved on, Aaron turned his attention back to Mila. He told her that her courage mattered and that many people would never know how close the day came to danger. Mila listened and nodded and felt the weight of his words settle gently on her shoulders. Aaron then received instructions to escort Mila to a quieter area while officers completed reports. Mila agreed and walked beside him as they moved away from the barrier. The crowd noise faded behind them and the city felt suddenly larger and quieter. Aaron knew this was not the end of Mila's story because questions remained about her past and the brother who taught her the signal. Mila knew that the day had changed something inside her and she felt both older and smaller at the same time. As they reached a shaded street away from the parade route, Aaron looked at Mila and realized that the smallest voices sometimes carry the strongest warnings. The quiet street felt far from the bright parade road and Mila noticed how different the city sounded without music and cheering. Aaron guided her to a shaded bench near a small garden where officers could still see them but people could not crowd around. Mila sat down slowly and rested her hands on her knees and she felt the tension leave her shoulders bit by bit. Aaron remained standing but he stayed close enough that she felt protected. He asked Mila if she felt tired and she said a little, but she felt more calm now. Aaron nodded and told her that calm after stress was normal and that her body was learning it was safe again. Mila looked at the leaves above them and watched sunlight move through the branches. She said her brother once told her to watch trees when her mind felt loud because trees did not rush. Aaron listened and felt the meaning behind her words. Aaron asked about her brother with care and patience. Mila said her brother's name was Leo and he was kind and serious at the same time. She said Leo always watched people closely and noticed small changes in behavior. She said Leo taught her how to stay aware without being afraid. Mila said Leo worked in city support jobs and sometimes helped with events near important places. She said he learned safety rules and signs during that time and he shared them with her because he wanted her to feel strong even when alone. Mila said Leo stopped coming home 1 year ago and never returned. She said there was no clear answer and only quiet days after that. Aaron felt a weight settle in his chest as he listened. He knew many people who worked in support roles carried heavy stories that never reached public ears. Aaron told Mila that remembering Leo lessons honored him in a real way. Mila nodded and her eyes looked distant for a moment. The senior safety officer approached again and stood at a respectful distance. He thanked Mila for her awareness and told her that the officers confirmed the items found near the fountain could have caused fear and harm if not noticed early. He said the early warning allowed them to handle the matter quietly and safely. Mila listened and did not smile, but she looked relieved. The officer told Aaron that a report would include Mila help, but her name would remain private. Aaron agreed because protecting her mattered. The officer then asked Mila if she had somewhere safe to go after the parade. Mila said her aunt worked near the river market and would finish later in the evening. The officer suggested arranging a safe escort when needed and Aaron offered to help coordinate. Mila felt grateful and said thank you in a soft voice. The officer left them again and the garden returned to quiet. Aaron sat on the bench at a polite distance from Mila and allowed himself to relax slightly. He asked Mila what she liked to do on normal days. Mila said she liked drawing buildings and streets because they felt like puzzles. She said she also liked listening to stories from older people because stories helped her understand how the city changed. Aaron smiled gently and said those were good skills for noticing details. Mila asked Aaron why he chose to be a guard. Aaron thought for a moment and said he liked protecting moments that mattered to people. He said parades were not just shows but memories families carried for years. Mila listened and said she never thought of it that way. The afternoon light shifted and shadows grew longer. Aaron received a message through his earpiece that the parade would finish its route soon and that public attention would slowly move away from the incident. Aaron shared this with Mila and told her things would return to normal outside. Mila nodded but said she felt different inside. Aaron understood and said important days often leave marks that help guide future choices. Mila asked if guards always trusted signals from strangers. Aaron said guards trusted patterns and behavior more than faces. He said her signal was trusted because it matched training and because her behavior showed calm honesty. Mila seemed proud for a brief moment and then thoughtful again. Aaron then received a message that Mila's aunt had been reached by city support staff. He told Mila that her aunt knew she was safe and would meet her later at a nearby center. Mila smiled for the first time that day and relief softened her face. Aaron told Mila that until then she would stay with trusted staff and that he would walk her part of the way. They stood up together and walked slowly toward the support center near the river. The city streets felt quieter here and shops continued their normal routines. Mila noticed how life moved on even after serious moments. Aaron noticed how Mila walked with steady steps and held her head high. As they walked, Mila asked if she could become a guard one day. Aaron said anyone who cared about others and trained with patience could serve in many protective roles. Mila said she wanted to help people without needing applause. Aaron said that was the heart of real service. When they reached the center, a kind worker greeted them and thanked Aaron. Mila turned to Aaron and thanked him for listening and believing her. Aaron told her that listening was part of his duty and part of being human. Mila nodded and stepped inside the center where she would wait safely. Aaron watched her go and felt a quiet pride. As he returned to his post, he reflected on how a small signal from a quiet child had changed the path of a royal day. Aaron knew the city would remember the parade for its beauty, but he would remember it for Mila's courage. The streets slowly filled again with normal sounds and the sun dipped lower. Aaron stood tall once more, but inside he carried a new awareness. He understood that protection did not always come from strength alone but from trust and attention. Mila sat inside the center drawing a picture of the parade road with guards and trees and a small figure standing brave near a barrier. She felt Leo's presence in her memory and felt less alone. Both of them moved forward with a deeper understanding that even the smallest actions can guide the safest outcomes. The support center felt warm and quiet, and Mila sat near a window where she could see the river and the moving boats. The worker gave her a cup of water and a small snack, and Mila thanked her in a soft voice. Mila took out her little pencil and continued her drawing because drawing helped her thoughts stay steady. She drew the parade road and the bright flags and the tall guards, and she added a small tree because trees made her feel calm. She also drew a tiny hand making the signal because she wanted to remember the moment clearly. Outside the center, the city sounded normal again, and Mila could hear distant music fading as the parade moved away. Mila wondered if the cheering people understood how close the day came to turning into fear. Mila decided it was better that they did not know because celebrations should stay light when they can. Aaron returned to his post near the route, and he followed the remaining part of the parade with careful eyes. He kept hearing the senior officer words in his mind, and he felt grateful the situation ended quietly. Aaron also felt something new that he had not expected from a parade day, and that feeling was responsibility toward a child who stood alone and still helped others. When the royal carriage finished the route, the guards began to reset the barriers and guide the crowd toward open streets. The city slowly loosened its tight shape, and people began to talk about the parade colors and the music and the carriage shine. Aaron received another message through his earpiece, and it told him the palace team wanted a brief report from him in person. Aaron understood this was normal after any unusual pause. Aaron walked to a small office near the route where senior staff waited. The senior safety officer asked Aaron to describe the first moment he noticed the signal, and Aaron explained it clearly and calmly. He said the signal matched training and the child behavior showed honesty and urgency. The officer nodded and said the early warning prevented confusion and protected the calm of the event. Another staff member asked about Mila, and Aaron shared what he learned about her brother Leo and her aunt working near the river market. The staff member listened with interest and wrote notes. The officer then said the palace did not want public attention on Mila, but they wanted to make sure she was supported. Aaron felt relief because he also wanted Mila protected and respected. The officer told Aaron that a small private meeting would happen later at the support center, and Aaron would be present for safety and comfort. Aaron agreed and returned toward the river with a steady pace. At the support center, Mila looked up when Aaron entered, and she felt safe again because his calm face reminded her she made the right choice. Aaron asked if she was comfortable, and Mila said yes, and she showed him her drawing. Aaron looked at it and noticed how she drew details that many adults would forget. Aaron pointed at the tree, and Mila said trees do not lie and they do not hide their purpose. Aaron smiled gently and said that was a wise thought. The worker informed Aaron that Mila's aunt had been contacted and would arrive soon. Mila felt nervous and excited because she did not like causing worry for her aunt. Aaron told Mila that worry is part of love and that her aunt would be glad she was safe. A short time later a woman entered the center and her face showed tiredness and fear and then relief. Her name was Mina and she was Mila's aunt. Mina walked quickly to Mila and held her close without speaking for a moment. Mila hugged her back and felt her eyes grow wet, but she stayed calm because she did not want to scare her aunt more. Mina pulled back and checked Mila's face and hands and asked if she was hurt. Mila said she was fine, and she said she was sorry for leaving the market area alone. Mina sighed and said she was upset but also proud that Mila was safe and brave. Aaron introduced himself to Mina and explained what happened in simple, careful words. Mina listened, and her hands shook slightly as she held Mila's shoulder. Mina thanked Aaron again and again because gratitude was the only thing that came easily in that moment. Aaron told Mina the thanks belonged to Mila because Mila noticed something and used a correct signal. Mina looked at Mila with surprise and asked how she knew such a thing. Mila looked down and said Leo taught her. Mina's eyes softened and she nodded slowly because she understood. Mina said Leo always wanted Mila to be ready for life, and she said Leo would have been proud today. Mila felt a warm ache in her chest and she pressed her lips together to stay steady. The worker then informed them that palace staff would arrive for a brief private conversation. Mina looked worried, but Aaron assured her it was not trouble and it was simply support and thanks. A few minutes later 2 palace staff members arrived with calm, respectful faces. One of them was the senior safety officer and the other was a palace coordinator who handled community support. They greeted Mina and Mila kindly and they did not wear heavy uniforms, so the moment felt human and not formal. The senior officer thanked Mila for her awareness and her calm actions. He said the palace valued people who cared for others without seeking attention. Mila listened and nodded, and her cheeks warmed because praise felt strange to her. The coordinator asked Mina about Mila's school situation, and Mina explained that money was tight and Mila sometimes missed supplies. Mila looked down because she did not like speaking about needs. The coordinator said the palace had a small program that supported children who showed strong responsibility and sharp observation. The coordinator said it was private help and it would not be used for publicity. Mina's eyes filled with tears and she covered her mouth for a second because she did not expect kindness from such a place. Mila looked at Mina and then at Aaron as if to confirm this was real. Aaron nodded gently and Mila felt hope rise in a quiet way. The senior officer then asked Mila one more question and he asked why she stepped forward when she could have stayed quiet. Mila thought carefully and said she remembered Leo's words about protection being a shared duty. Mila said she did not want people to be afraid and she wanted the parade to stay happy for families. The officer nodded and said that answer showed a strong heart. Mina held Mila's hand and squeezed it softly. The meeting ended with simple steps and the coordinator gave Mina a paper with contact details and instructions for the support program. Mina thanked them with a voice that trembled. After the staff left, Mina sat with Mila and Aaron near the window. Mina apologized again for being busy and for leaving Mila alone too often. Mila said she understood and she said Mina worked hard for both of them. Mina said she would try to arrange safer routines and Mila nodded. Aaron told Mina that Mila had a special kind of awareness and it should be guided with care. Mina asked Aaron what that meant and Aaron said it meant Mila should learn safety skills in healthy ways and also have space to just be a child. Mila listened and agreed because she wanted both strength and peace. As evening approached, Mina prepared to take Mila home. Mila packed her drawing carefully and she asked Aaron if he would keep a copy of the picture in his memory. Aaron said he already would. Mila then surprised herself by asking Aaron if she could visit the Guard Training Museum someday because Leo once spoke about it. Aaron said he could request a supervised visit through the program coordinator. Mila smiled, and that smile looked lighter than any she had worn all day. Mina thanked Aaron one last time and asked if he would be safe as he returned to duty. Aaron said he would, and he bowed his head slightly in respect. Mila walked with Mina toward the market road, and she looked back once at the support center door. Aaron stood there watching until they turned the corner. On the walk home, Mina bought Mila a small sweet bread even though money was tight because she wanted to mark the day with something warm. Mila ate slowly and watched the river lights appear as the sun lowered. Mila thought about Leo and felt both sadness and closeness. Mila decided she would keep Leo lessons, but she would also keep her own dreams. Aaron returned to the palace gates as night settled, and he felt the city breathe easier. Aaron looked at the parade street now empty, and he understood that quiet heroes often stand where no one expects. Mila reached home with Mina, and they sat together and talked in gentle voices. Mina promised Mila that they would face the future as a team. Mila held her drawing and added one more detail before sleep. She drew a small home with a light in the window because she wanted the ending to feel safe.